Let's go through the trending topics. What's in sports last week? The U.S. women's national team traveled to Scotland, where they beat the Scottish national team by a score of 1-0. The lone goal came off of Alex Morgan in the 39th minute. Just wraps up the U.S. women's international games for the 2018 calendar. They did also play Portugal the previous week, and that was a 1-0 win to USA. So they finish up the year with back-to-back wins, and we all know that they did the biggest thing this year, Bespecs. October, September, they won the CONCACAF championships to go on to get their automatic bid for the World Cup. So, also this past Thursday, the U.S. men's national team lost 3-0 to England at Wembley Stadium, famous Wembley Stadium, England. We are still waiting to be confirmed of who the national team head coach will be. There's narrowed the list down to about 5 people. Ernie Stewart said they're probably going to make the announcement later, maybe in the next week or two, but U.S. men lost by a score of 3-0 to England. England was playing its B/C roster. USA still playing a very youthful roster. Not many MLS guys in there. Did have Brad Guzan playing in goal for U.S. men's national team. U.S. men will play Italy this Tuesday. So I know John's got that game circled on his calendar, being,
funny,
born in America, but, Italian. And it is an interesting game because both programs are in what we call kind of a rebuild, because Italy and the USA both missed the World Cup on the men's side.
That's true.
So we got everything working, John?
Just getting there.
All right. So like I said, we have a very special guest in tonight. We have Dr. Klasko, CEO and president of Jefferson University. Talk a little bit about, just the game of soccer, that traditionally Philadelphia University Textile, which emerged Jefferson was in the 70s, even 80s, just a powerhouse in soccer.
Yeah, we were, and I remember, even when I was I'd been the dean at Drexel, and everybody talked about, textile soccer, and I think you played way, way, way above your weight back then, and I think we're still really competitive in Division II.
Yeah, very competitive. You look at just the 3 years that I've been there, when it was Philadelphia University the first year, and the last 2 years we've been Jefferson University, that we don't get blown out of games. I think maybe the worst result was maybe a 2-0, and a couple games like that. So we're always competitive, and we put a great product on the field. Like Todd Myers, our head coach, does a great job, and surprisingly, I'm sure that was interesting to you to see how international roster is.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. I think I was pretty amazed because usually you go around, in other situations. If I go to the fashion design or the medical folks and say, where are you from? And it's I'm from Virginia. Yeah. I'm from, here it was, I'm from Norway. I'm from Sweden. I'm from, basically almost everybody was from outside. I think one of the things, though, about Jefferson, the Jefferson Rams now, is I was at the homecoming game, and I think it really is the mark of a great coach, especially in soccer, in football. They just never give up. I mean, it was probably, one of the worst halves that we had, the homecoming game, and you could say, this is just a game that we're not going to win, and they just came back and they just didn't give up.
I think that the interesting thing about coaching soccer, and you as the president, and just during those games you're a fan, that we can't just call timeout, pull them aside. It's I've coached basketball before. I've coached a little bit of the throw football, as you call it, but soccer's it's just we really, you can't just stop the flow of the game and correct everything. It's moving pieces, and when you make a sub, you just kind of try to relay a message on the fly. So it's what I enjoy about soccer is that it's the athletes themselves that are making the decisions, that you prep them all week and put them in situations, and then just you kind of almost at the end cross your fingers and realize it's in their hands. And I actually like that as a coach because it should be up to the players. But when we watch like NFL football, you have all these coaches that are relaying in the plays where sometimes the players are reacting and thinking by play, but soccer is just a free-flowing reactionary type of sport.
Yeah, we were talking about before. It's a little bit like, I'm a surgeon. It's a little bit like surgery. I mean, you don't get to call a timeout. Like you say, this is bleeding. Let's call a timeout.
That's a good one.
And I think that football. You have a couple bad plays, you call a timeout, you regroup, you set up a play, you do a fake punt or whatever. You can't do that in soccer. It's really the flow and all the preparation that you've done and all the experience that you have. Yeah. You can move people around and that kind of stuff. But
get yanked out for the bullpen guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Get subbed out.
Get another surgeon in.
Exactly. So, no, it is so true that you hit the nail on the head about that. And we were talking about this before in a pre-production meeting about just that, that when you do surgery in athletes, it's one of those things that like the psyche of getting in the zone. And you said you've had that when you've run marathons and surgery where you just kind of get that, you don't know where it came from, but you're just in that zone.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you're not a professional, I mean, and I think so my passion is running, and I've run several marathons, and there are times where you say, God, every mile is going to be like really, really a chore. There are other times where you feel like Forrest Gump, and you can just, it's like, I'm just going to keep on running, And I think it is interesting. I mean, we don't know a lot about the human body, but I think so much of it is the mind. And I think, there are certain points where you go out probably where your team goes out in a game and an individual just takes it over, and you go, what happened to you, right? And he or she probably can't say what it was.
Yeah, and it's interesting that as a coach, you see a player come up with a flash, and so many of the outsiders and media see like a quarterback throws 300 yards or a guy scores 3 goals. Then is that bar set now? Now that's the expectation. We've all seen that with players just having.
It's almost like, where was he? Right?
Exactly. Where was that? But I can attest that I've joked that I've never been the best player on the field, but I've had the best game. But sometimes you just don't know what it is. I'm a big firm believer that it's a lot of it's from the neck up.
Right.
It just starts feeding off itself, and it goes and goes. And it's the same thing, Tom. When coaching, you start calling a lot of the right plays and doing the right thing, then it just it escalates. But like you said, you'd recently run the New York Marathon, and you said you were with some of the Kenyans, and I'm sure they're just athletes in their own right, and marathon runners don't fit that mold of a soccer player athlete.
Yeah, although if you look at the history of some of the African folks that have won marathons, there's some real reasons for that. I mean, the classic thing is, you want to go and get some bread and milk. You're getting an Uber, you're taking your car.
Yep.
Where some of these folks live, it's 6 miles away, and it's like they're running the 6 miles, to get that bread and milk, and then running the 6 miles back. And
you have altitude and all these different genetics that
Yeah.
have gone into it. So it's really interesting, that you do that. And we were talking earlier about how you've done it a couple times now. You've thrown the opening pitch out for the Phillies, and we talked about how that was mental, because anybody can throw a ball 90, 60 feet.
Right.
But then when you're sitting on a mound and 20,000 people, 40,000 are watching you.
Right. And I think, I think it gets to another important part of sports is, knowing what you have. You have some people that go in there and go, I'm going to throw an 80 mile an hour fastball. And those are the ones that end up sailing over the backstop or the ones you end up seeing on channel 3 because they were so bad. And I think the key is, so it's actually the third time, 1 in Tampa and 2 here, where I've gotten to pitch from the mound. And the key is, you can look like you're pitching, but you just throw like you're throwing from third base to first base.
The change up then, basically.
Yeah, because people in the stands, it looks like a great pitch. It might be 30 miles an hour. It would have gone like would have been
the radar gun doesn't go that low.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact is, you look really good compared to trying to pretend that you're that you're a major league pitcher.
I'm sure it's all three of us in the studio did not go pro, unfortunately. Right. So but there's different levels of like bucket list of things that and you said you did do the dream camp of the Phillies too, and that must have been just a thrill in itself.
Yeah, although that was interesting because so the very first day I slid into first base and ended up breaking my heel. And Larry Boa second and they have all the trainers and they shoot me up with steroids and I've got a thing. So you actually try out for stuff.
Okay.
So I tried out. I'm pretty fast, and I got starting center field because I could catch anything. So then the first quote preseason day, I break my heel, and we're at tie game, bottom of the ninth, and somebody hits a ball to center field. And I'm thinking I can run like I did before. I have this like padding on my thing, but I've lost like a step and a half. And I literally was this far, like about
inches,
a foot away from from getting the ball, and nobody would talk to me on the bench. And like, what? You look so good, and I didn't want to talk about like how I slid into first base and broke my heel. So yeah.
Yeah. That's too funny. Now, where was that? Is that down in Florida?
Down in Clearwater, yeah.
Yeah, so at least
Which is the other problem, because then you're also going at night, like sort of drinking with the Phillies.
Yeah.
And my specialty is I'm an obstetrician.
Okay.
So so it was really sort of weird, because I was out with Greg Luzinski and Larry Boa and Mike Schmidt, and we were out at a bar, and I said, gosh, you guys are doing what I would do for free, and you're making money, and
Yeah.
and, Larry Boa goes, well, you're doing what I would do for free as an obstetrician, then you're making money. So
It is funny. They talk about how rock stars want to be athletes and athletes want to be rock stars.
Yeah.
It's
so to them, delivering babies was pretty cool, and to me, playing baseball was pretty cool.
yeah. I got to hand it to you, because my wife just had a baby at Jefferson University exactly 2 months ago, and your staff was amazing, and we were taken care of, and it's to do that and deliver babies.
Yeah.
It's just, to these people, it's like it's another day in the office for them. It's just they're in and out. It's just
Well,
amazing what you guys do.
I've delivered about 2,500 babies, and it is a little bit like, to the people that you're delivering the baby, every one of them is a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, exactly. That
Right?
was
But
our
to
championship.
To you, it's you get a call at 2:00 in the morning, and it's another delivery. But I think for those of us who have been successful, it's you make it seem that it's as important to you as it is to the patient.
Yeah, and it just amazes me, because here I am, those 5 to 10 minutes, 20. It was the longest of my entire life.
Yeah.
Just time freezes for us, but you guys are professionals, and it's same thing when like athletes get up there. It's how these athletes are able to hit a free throw with 30,000 people cursing and yelling at them, and they just almost block it out.
Or even more like that is like the game today. I hate to bring up the Eagles game, but you look at Malcolm Jenkins, that literally was out there, making tackles and pretend it was like it was a Super Bowl. So I think that no matter what, there are people that go out there and do what they do every day, and every day they put 110% out. By the way, for me, I end up being a coach to the residents.
Yeah,
Because it's the same kind of thing. It's you have residents that are tired, and I say, boy, that patient didn't get the feeling that you really, you were going all out. As the actual mechanics of delivering the baby, for you as the husband or me as the obstetrician,
yeah,
the real work is being done by your wife.
yeah.
right?
They're the ones doing the real.
I say I delivered the baby. No, really, she delivered the baby. I caught the baby.
Yeah, they kept calling me in the centering class like Jefferson that I'm the coach. So I'm like, they said, oh well, it kind of fits because I am a coach. So that's the biggest thing, is just getting the athlete to perform at their highest
Or
level.
as my wife reminded me, you're just the assistant coach. Because
Yeah, because I guess I make the final call. You make the suggestion.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in my ear whispering, but you're the also. It's like John and I joke when there's times when I'm a head coach and there's times when I'm an assistant coach, where there's times where my assistant coach may be more qualified than me, and there is that dynamic where some coaches don't like that. I don't mind that. I've had coaches that are 10 years older than me as an assistant, twice as much qualifications, but it's that thing. I mean, you look at what the Rams coach, Sean McVay, he's what? I could be his dad, I feel like.
Right.
And you see him, he's got Wade Phillips on his staff. Wade Phillips is old enough to be his grandfather, but I think it's the dynamics that you have in coaching that, that how you communicate back and forth.
Well, it's true in business also.
Yeah.
I graduated from Wharton, and I had a leadership professor who used to say you should always have 5 people under you that think they can do a better job than you, and 3 that are right. And I think that's true in my business as president of the university. It's true in coaching, because you use the Sean McVay example. Nice thing about having those folks like Wade Phillips is that the players might be willing to talk to Wade at a different level than they would talk to their head coach. Just like I have some people under me that literally they're much younger than I am, et cetera, but I have some of the doctors will talk to them because I'm the boss. And the fact that they feel that they can talk to those people, recognize it'll probably get to me, but it'll get to me maybe a little bit muted, is actually a good way to do things.
No, it's true. So sometimes you have to have that person to whisper in your ear. And case example, I always think about when Michael Jordan's the GM when they were the Charlotte Bobcats. How's the Michael Jordan run team stink? Because who's going to stand up to Michael Jordan and say you don't know what you're talking about?
Right.
You know, and it's the thing. So I have to as a head coach. John F. coached several times, and you have to know when to say, hey, I don't agree with you here.
Yeah. So what do you think? I always wonder, why it seems like some of the best coaches were sort of like, utility or sort of just okay players, the ones that had been players.
Well, luckily you have two players that were just okay in here. John and I were just okay.
Right.
No.
I guess that's the case in point. No, but I mean, a lot of the superstars really end up not doing well as coaches.
I think because my opinion is it's so easy to them, where they don't need as much coaching as a kid. We all went against that kid that, I heard you talk about you play basketball. Always that kid that's just naturally talented. You hand him a ball, he or she will just dominate. So they don't have to put the work in, that where John and I, it doesn't come as natural to me. So I had to do a lot more work and study. And I believe it or not, I spent more time on the bench than playing as a youth player. So, but it sounds like very nerdy, but I made sure to sit near a coach and just pick that coach's brain during the game. And we do have players like that on our teams that aren't as good on the field, but they're going to play intelligently,
right?
Because they're using their mind where their body can't work. So
they understand the game. And
it's like the soccer IQ. We bring that a lot in soccer. There's players that aren't as physically gifted, and they can get away with certain positions and certain roles on teams by just understanding the flow of the game and foreshadowing, seeing something happen before it happens. And that's big on goalkeeping. John and I both coach goalkeepers. Is I'd say 90% of goalkeeping is seeing all the worst case scenarios and putting your body in the way before it happens.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, I really believe the goalkeepers sometimes really end up becoming very successful because that whole thing of seeing the second and third order consequences of what's happening on the field.
Yeah, it's like chaos theory.
But that's actually a good thing for almost any business that you do. I mean, I think that whole, even so you look at my world, we have 18 hospitals. We now have 2 campus university.
I heard you got 19 before the show's over.
Yeah, we have 30,000 employees, and it is a little bit like seeing the field because we have a lot of, now that we're not cute and cuddly and we're the largest healthcare system in the city, you have to look at what's happening in the field and see where people might be getting you. And I think that ability to not just see what you're doing and plotting forward, but for a goalkeeper to look and say, gosh, there's something going over there on the other side of the field that I see happening that could affect where I'm gonna position myself. I mean, you see that in ice hockey also. I mean, or field hockey.
All those sports. And I say another one, like you bring up Malcolm Jenkins, why I think he's one of the best safeties in football. It's the same thing. He has a role like that, like a goalkeeper. And that's when people ask me comparison, I don't say it's like a linebacker. I say it's more like a safety because you literally have to put, it's like a free safety. You got to position yourself. Like you said, you see something on the left, but the ball's on the right, but you see that one little guy that's not being marked. And
you make one mistake.
Yeah, you got to commit to one or the other.
The guy's drawing in and the guy's faster. You look really bad.
Yeah. So the interesting part about when Thomas Jefferson and Philadelphia University merged, that this came to a point where now you've got 17 NCAA sports, and that's exciting. I mean, I guess for you being a sports fan, that you can go to games and cheer, and we have the Ram and all that. And what do you see? What's your dream scenario, like the dream situation for Thomas Jefferson University?
Yeah, well, it was sort of surreal because I think one of the first games I went to was we had a sort of exhibition game with the Temple Owls in basketball.
Yeah.
And, for me, seeing all these little 10-year-olds who are go Jefferson Rams, because it was right after we look, I think that, I always want to move forward.
Yeah.
And I think that so much of athletics is always wanting to get to the next level. And also the thing about athletics for a university, it's also how you define yourself. So, I don't think it's impossible that someday I came from University of South Florida. So, we were, at one point number 2 in the country in NCAA 1 football.
They're the real national champions.
What? Well, yeah. But so I think, at some point, I'd love
Yeah.
to be in a league like with the Lehighs and the Bucknells, and I don't think it's impossible that we'll be Division One at some point. Right now, we're in a great conference, the Central Athletic Coast Conference. I just actually went to the meeting, and I think we'll be very competitive. There's not a team that isn't competitive, whether it's soccer or women's cross country or basketball. But I think with anything, if you're satisfied where you are, then you probably need a new leader. It's just how I feel about things. We were the number 16 hospital in the country. At one point, I want to be number 10.
Yeah.
You look at that and say, well, that's going to be hard. There's Cleveland Clinic and Mayo. But once you stop thinking that you can advance, look, you know what it is? It's the Atlanta Falcons syndrome.
Yeah, okay.
It's super. Not this last Super Bowl, the Super Bowl before.
Yeah, 28-3.
And it really got me upset because my son-in-law is a huge Patriots fan,
Oh.
and we were away, and we finally got him. But what? If you really think about the Falcons, they were up by 3 touchdowns or whatever, and at some point they said, like, we're the Falcons and they're the Patriots. This shouldn't be happening. So let's do something different. They didn't have that. That fourth quarter, they didn't have let's just go and, you look at what happened today, and I hate to bring it up again.
Third time's a charm.
but you look at New Orleans today, and, Sean was just as, he was like, he didn't run it up, but he wasn't relaxing with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, up 45-7.
No, you can't.
So but they did. And I think it would be very easy for us to say, oh, all right, let's just try to, win some games in the CACC. I mean, but I think that we can create some student athletes in just about any conference, 5 or 10 years from now.
No, it's definitely good, especially being on the coaching staff for the Jefferson men's, soccer team, and the support is there, and we're just seeing the growth and the excitement's there, and I think it's a new type of buzz where, when I'm in the Jefferson University Hospital, I mean, obviously I'm going to wear all my Jefferson soccer stuff, be like a poster boy advertising for Jefferson soccer, but it is neat to see, like, wait, we have teams, and it's starting to really get the buzz around the hospital. I'm like, yeah, you come up and watch basketball, soccer.
Although I did hear freaked out the nurses when you had Fear of the Ram and you're coming in.
Exactly.
But, all right, this guy's no, but look, I think the great thing about our sports program is, you mentioned soccer back in textile. We've had some really, really interesting. You take Herb McGee. I mean, I was on Sonny Hill's show in the living room, and I mean, there are very, very few coaches in the city that are as well respected as Herb McGee in basketball. And
I would still take my lunch money.
yeah, well, no, I mean, he's got
good.
A great trivia
Yeah.
question is the NCAA basketball coach with the most wins is not Coach K and is not Dean Smith.
That's Herb
It's
McGee.
Jefferson Rams.
Yep, exactly. Been coaching since the 60s.
Yeah.
That's the part that really, it does give me chills when I'm walking in the athletic halls and just seeing, the photos and the wins and seeing the banners, and you realize, you do the math in your head, and you realize how many wins you got to average per year to get there.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. It's
Yeah.
like, we're so used to athletes going in the Hall of Fame after retirement, but it's like to the point where you have a coach that's already in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
He's already there, and he's still coaching.
Right. And I've talked to some of the folks in the Sixers that really, know about Herb, because it really gets down to, people have respect for people that are great in what they do.
Man, it's like a pleasure. It's one of those times where when I do see him in the hallways, I still feel like a kid when I see him because he's been around so long. It's just that respect factor. We talk about it a lot on the coaching staffs of all the teams that, like, Herb is like a coach to everybody.
Yeah.
Like he's just Philly basketball, and being that Philly is a basketball town, it's
Well, it's like, can you imagine being like the president of University of Connecticut and talking to the women's basketball coach?
Yeah,
Like, what are you going to say?
exactly.
It's probably the greatest team in any sport of all time as far as what they've won. So
And
what
you're
are
trying
you
to get
gonna
their
say?
autograph,
Could,
get a
could you
picture.
win one more game? Yeah, yeah. I mean, so yeah, it's great when you have when you have an icon like that on your staff.
Now, just to let everybody know, you're listening to World Sports Show on WPP and LP Philadelphia. We're here with Dr. Stephen Kalasco. You've also written a couple books. How did that go about when you started getting into the writing aspect?
Yeah, so my last book is that just came out a few weeks ago. It's called "Bless This Mess: A Picture Story of Healthcare in America." Asterisk. It's not a children's story. It's scary, and do not read this at bedtime.
Yeah, I saw the illustration. I was going to buy it for
Yeah,
my daughter,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I started reading up on it.
Yeah, no, it's probably not the best, but it really came down to I'm a little bit like Herb. I've been doing this for a real long time, and it frustrates me that healthcare in this country is still a mess, and everybody blames everybody that's not them. I laugh because I was here's a trivia question. I'm the only gynecologist that has been the team doctor for a professional football team.
Interesting.
I was the team doctor for the Tampa Bay Storm.
Yeah, the indoor AFL team.
Yeah, and the way it works in the AFL is that there's an orthopedist for the stadium, but all you need is an MD.
Okay.
And they have chiropractors and all that. So I was on MD on the bench. Nobody ever asked what I did for a living until they lost 5 in a row. And the coach Markham gets everybody together. Says, I want everybody to get up on this soapbox and say what's wrong with this team. And everybody started blaming everybody else. The quarterback said the offensive line is the last guy was a defensive tackle, and he just gets up there. He had a little bit of a stutter, and he said, "There's something wrong with this team. For God's sakes, our team doctor's a gynecologist."
Yep, nail in the coffin there.
So the guy looked and said, "All right, I'll tell you what. You win 1 game, I'll get you a family doc. You win 2 games, I'll get you an orthopedist. But right now, you deserve Glasgow." So it's a true story. They won the next 6 games. They went to what they call the Arena Bowl, which is Super Bowl. And if you go look on the YouTube from 2010, they had little WDKs. We deserve Glasgow. We deserve the guy.
Are you kidding me? I'm going to Google that.
So I feel very good that I was an inspiration.
You get your jersey retired now. You're in their Hall of Fame. So we want to thank you for coming in. I know you said you've got a meeting tomorrow. We're going to take a quick break, but I thank you for everything you do for the university and everything you do to sport athletics at Jefferson, and just love seeing all the news coming out, especially we'll have to get you on again and talk about this whole deal with medical school and Italy ties. I mean, it's just some great news out there. If you had a chance, people, check out all the things that Jefferson is doing, and I want to thank you for coming in, Dr. Glasgow.
Thanks. Honestly, here's what I'd say where we can wrap up the segment. It's a lot like sports. At the end of the day, if you keep doing the same thing, then people will figure it out. What we're doing, the Italy thing is a great example. The first place where doctors will be able to practice in either the European Union or the United States. There's no reason we shouldn't create global physicians. So, just like you're going to think of new plays, we're always thinking about new plays.
He needs to go play the Italian team.
That would be fun.
That would be fun. Get Jefferson Men over playing Italy. So, well, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for watching a World Sports Show production. For more info, go to worldsportsshow.com.